So the day has finally come where we are going to be filling in this gap right here. In order to do that, we first need to move this custom building out of the way. This is going to get rebuilt at some point, so just ignore that. But this dark bluish gray base plate right here is going to get the fire brigade put on top of it in today's video. I've been talking about this for a number of months now, and originally we were actually going to put it in the back of the city right at the end of this street here, but I'm saving that for taller buildings, either that's custom ones or official sets like the Avengers Tower. So the fire brigade has been moved over to here, which I think is going to work really well for it, and we actually have almost every single piece that we need, and all of those pieces can be found in this bin, and the remaining ones that are not in this bin are on their way. So with that, I'm going to show you guys the Bricklink orders that are on their way, but for you guys that are already here. So let's go ahead and unbox those. I'll show you what's in them, and then we can start building this, and I will show you guys the entire model and how we add it to the city. All right, so here is everything that was in the order here. And so as you can see, the seller looks to be very conscious of individually bagging everything, which I am extremely happy about. This is really nice to see. Some of the stuff is bagged together, like all the black pieces and all the white pieces, but for the most part, I don't really care. I think that's perfectly fine as it is. And then you can see all of the other elements here. I got this minifigure because it was like less than $2, I think. And you can see, I just really wanted the torso print, and it does come with a classic smiley face. And the figure was listed as used, but it looks to be in fantastic condition. So I think that's really neat. There's a little bit of a scuff right in the middle of the truck, but I don't even really care. I think that's really cool, and it's just a classic smiley face, and that is that figure there. It was really cheap, and I figured I'd throw it in. Needed a bunch of dark tan 1x1 plates for the fire brigade here. Needed some window glass. This was the bag for the figure, and then you'll notice a bunch of tiles and things. I would have preferred to have ordered the tiles from Lego, but double points had already ended by the time I placed this order, so not really interested in placing an order with them, especially since the standard pieces are paused at the moment. You can't order that in North America, so had to find them elsewhere. And plus, the seller had most of everything else, so I wasn't really concerned about paying a couple extra cents per piece on these, and I didn't need that many, as you can see, so that's fine. The white pieces here are the bulk of the order, it looks like, and I did get 2 of these. I have 2 of them in tan, but I don't have them in white, so needed to get 2 of these in white for the fire brigade, and I'm really happy that I did. And the seller really did a good job bubble wrapping these, so huge shout out to him. I'll leave his information down in the description below if you're interested in going to check him out. And then this is just a bunch of white pieces in here, nothing really special. There was a clock in here. I think it's this round. Yeah, this round tile here. I definitely have one of these somewhere, but I just can't for the life of me find it. And it was really cheap, so I figured I would just throw it in. And then the black pieces here is mostly just plate. Big plate that I just didn't have, like 4x12s and 6x12s. Couldn't find any 6x12s. I don't think I own any. And then I had 1 or 2 4x12s, and so I needed to just order the rest of them. And then there's a couple window frames, doors, and a couple of slopes, and this 1x10 brick right here, or actually I think there's 2 of them. I did not have 2 1x10 bricks in black, so that's that. And then the final bag here is what looks to be the miscellaneous stuff, so the arches and slopes for what I'm assuming to be the fire truck. The tiles in here, again, were a little bit expensive, but I just wanted to get it all from the same person. I only had one of these barrels with the axle in it, and I had another one without the axle in it, but I looked through the instructions, and you actually need that, so did have to order one of those. And then the Technic bricks and the yellow 1x8 tile, because I only had 3 1x8 tiles in yellow that were not in use, and then this one here has sticker residue on it. So the stickers from back in the day did not apply themselves super well, and they did not withstand the test of time that great either. So I need to find a way to clean this. I did try soap and water already, and that did not help at all. So I need to figure out something else for that. But overall, this is pretty good. So I am going to count all of these pieces up, and then we are going to add these to the bin of pieces that you saw earlier, and then we can go ahead and open the other 2 Bricklink orders because those are also supposed to arrive later today. And then we can go ahead and get started on building it. All right, so the first of these 2 Bricklink orders here is extremely small. And so as you can see, it only has a handful of pieces in it. The reason why I bought from the seller is these specialized engine pieces right here. I needed 3 of these for the build, and I had 2 of them from Indiana Jones sets, but they were surprisingly rare. So I needed to grab them, and I also grabbed a couple of cheap minifigures as well and a couple of other pieces that I need. And so that's pretty much it from this order. It was just a very minimal purchase here, but this order here is the other one. So as you can see, there is a little bit more going on with it, but there's not a lot for the fire brigade specifically. It's mainly this. I didn't have any more of these windows. I used them all on my coffee shop, so I needed 1 more of them for the fire brigade, and I needed these chrome tiles or grill tiles as well. I had a couple of them, but I figured I would just stock up on more than I needed just to have. And then these are also for the fire brigade. These are the 2 clear garage door pieces that are needed for the set. I'm not getting any of the red ones because of the price of them, and I'll touch on that later. I got a Johnny Thunder figure. Thought that was pretty cool. I've been wanting to get one for a while, and this seller had one for cheap, and it's in pretty decent condition actually, as you can see. So really happy about that. The dark tan bricks are just to stock up on because I've used most of mine. And then these are also for the fire brigade here. And then I'm pretty sure that this is also for it, as well as 1 short on black doors and also the 1x2x2 window frames in white. And then everything else you see, the dark blue bricks, these corner snot bricks, and then the 2x2 round plates are all just extra pieces that I need for different projects, and then also the 2 gray frogs for the fire brigade as well. And then I also got this base plate right here, 16x16, because it was really cheap, and I feel like I could use one of these in the city, specifically over by the bridge, but I'll save that for its own video. So with that, that's all of the Bricklink orders. So now let's go ahead and I will show you guys the completed product, and then I can give you a tour of it and also a couple of modifications that I make along the way, and we can see how it looks in the city. And so here is the fire brigade finished, which is really exciting. I've gone ahead and I've built the thing, which is really, really cool to see. And we'll take a look at the 3 of the 4 figures in just a second here. But the set itself is very, very large, as I'm sure you guys can tell. It is on a standard 32x32 base plate. For those of you not familiar with this, I'm going to be going ahead and giving you guys a quick overview of the set itself, but I'm not going to be going too far into depth with it because, like I said, there have been reviews of this out for over a decade at this point. So if you're interested in checking this out in greater detail, make sure to go ahead and check some of those videos out. But the set itself doesn't really have many interior details, which we will touch on in just a second. But you'll see this whole section right here is the first floor, and then this is the second, and then this up here is the roof. So it's only a 2-story modular building, but this right here is a story and a half in and of itself. So this is very tall, very large, and as you can see on the back here, there is some green plate on the bottom here and also some reddish brown as well for the engine right here through the back door, which is pretty cool. These doors are kind of rare, but I did actually have these in my collection already, which was pretty cool. And then coming around the side here, you can see that there is a side door as well. And then coming around the other side here, there's not really much detail, just that the brickwork is continued throughout. And then like you saw on the back, there is also a bunch of windows on the front as well. And so with that, let's go ahead and punch in and take a greater look at some of the details here and also some of the changes that I made. And then we can go ahead and place this in the city. So the first floor here is fairly basic in its construction, but it is actually very, very nice looking as well. And so as you can see, the tiling down here is slightly different than how the set is originally. Normally, they have a row of light gray tile, and then they have 1x2 tiles behind that, and then they have 2x2 tiles behind that, and then the 2x2 tiles just go all the way to the building. I don't do the 1x2 tile row. I just go straight from the light bluish gray tiles to the 2x2 dark bluish gray. That's what I personally prefer to do. I think that looks a little bit cleaner. And so I went ahead and I changed that as well. Now, coming around to the side of the building, you can see that there are a lot of brackets used on these 4 main pillars here. which is why all of these tiles are sticking out. And I think they look really good, but something that does not look great is this tree here. I built it anyways just because I figured I'd get the whole experience of building the set, and so there's the tree. There's nothing really to talk about it. If you look at it from the side, it looks horrible, and if you look at it from the top, it looks okay. You know, there's nothing really crazy about it, but I personally am not a fan of it. I will be removing this when I add it to the city, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like here just for the sake of the set itself. And then you can see the gold, metallic gold firefighter helmets up top there, and then the axes and hammers on either side, which is a nice detail. And then the American flag is up here as well. You could rebuild this pretty easily into different flags, but the scale is pretty small, so I'm not totally sure how you would do that. But I do like the rest of the details on the facade here, namely this sideways window. I think that looks great. And then we'll take a look at the engine in just a second here, but the interior is where it is really sparse, actually, because the walls are so tall, like I said. And so coming through here, as you can see, if I turn this sideways, you can kind of start to get an idea of how it looks in here, but it's so dark that it's really, really hard to see. And so you'll notice that there is light gray tiles down here and quarter round tiles. Those did not exist back in 2009. The set is supposed to use one of these 8x16 dark bluish gray tiles, but it warped the base plate when I was building it. I didn't want to have any lasting damage to my base plate or to any other part of the model, so I figured I would just go ahead and leave that off. I felt like that was fine for me personally, and also the light bluish gray from the tiling pattern out front continues all the way through. So that works for me. I didn't have enough 4x4 tiles, so I did have to substitute with the quarter rounds and other things like that. But the door that you saw on the front comes in here, and then there's a big staircase coming around the top there. It is pretty hard to see in there, but there is also a clock as well. You can see that here. And this is what the other side looks like here. As you can see, it has the fire pole down the side there, and then there are some fire extinguishers in there. Let's see if I can kind of show you guys that a little bit. And then there's 3 dark bluish gray frogs on the wall as well. Those are acting as hangers for your firefighter helmets, like these right here. So that is a really neat detail. Obviously, the helmets wouldn't be attached to that, so then they would just fall off if you tilt the building like I've been doing in this video here. But the back door does lead to where the driveway was, so you can open these up and then have the engine pull in, and then you can also have minifigures come in on the side down here, which is a pretty nice detail. And then the other details around the model are fairly sparse. It's just a little bit of grass down here, and then also the windows as well. But I do think that what is here looks really good, and it's just very big. There's not a lot of detail here, but what is here is good. And then the building is just very, very large. Now, looking at the second floor here, you can see that the staircase came up here, and then the fire pole comes down on the right, and it is continued throughout the second floor. And there's a nice hazard tile as well, just for your minifigures to know to not continue walking down there unless they're ready to use the fire pole. And then there is a couch here. And then this is much more easy to see inside here, which is really nice. And the kitchenette here, or the full kitchen actually, has a stove and an oven, some cabinets and some drawers, and then a sink here, and then the hood above the stove, which is good to see. And there is also a fridge, which I don't think looks that great personally. It does leave a lot of gaps throughout here, but I do think that for its day, for 2009, the designers did actually a pretty good job. Now, one thing I wanted to highlight actually was this right here, which is the little ping pong table. And I can go ahead and pull this out here. So as you can see, it is built fairly simply, but it does look really, really good. And it does have the little net in the middle as well. And then you can see that the rail plates are just held on the sides by snot bricks. This is a very, very simple build, but it does look really good once it's done, and it has the white studs underneath for the legs of the table. And then over here is a little piece of furniture, and unfortunately that is built into the wall kind of, and so it's really hard to actually get in there and use the thing. You can remove the whole thing like I just did here, or the top half at least, but it is not really designed to come out in one piece. So that is a little unfortunate. And then the 2 ping pong paddles, with the ball are stuck into the fence there just so they don't fly around. The instructions do tell you to do that, which is pretty nice. And then that is everything on the second floor. So again, not a lot of details, but what is there is really good. And then coming to the roof here, you can see that the door to the roof is on its side, and then that just leads to the staircase below. And then if we just put this on here, just for the sake of continuity, you can come around the back here and you can see that there is a water tower here and also a bell. We'll take a look at the bell from the front, and then also the 1932 here. This is the year that the Lego group was founded. And so the building for this though was awful. I did not enjoy this one bit because a lot of the claw pieces and a lot of the 1x1 modifieds that I had were extremely hard to connect together due to the high amount of friction that was in each of the pieces when I was trying to assemble it. And so I probably spent 20 to 30 minutes just on this alone, trying to get everything aligned properly. And even then, it's not perfect. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap here and some other imperfections as well. So I'm not super happy with how that turned out, both the building experience and also the final product. But I did notice that this was a significantly different building experience than the pet shop and the town hall, both of which had designs like this. And so I am happy to see that they did learn from this and improve upon it. But overall, this is not my favorite part of the build. It looks fine from a distance, but once you get up close like this, it doesn't really look that great. Now, the bell, on the other hand, I think looks fantastic. It is using a metallic gold plate piece on the bottom, like a dish, and then you go ahead and you add these metallic gold, drum lacquered gold 1x2 tiles, and then you just build up the rest of the bell here, and it, I think, looks really, really good. And it does actually move, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, and I think that looks great. I really, really do, and I think it's a really nice build, and it really tops this building off nicely. And so with that, let's go ahead and take one final overview of this. I'll talk about a couple of modifications, and then we can add it to the city and see how it looks. And so actually, before we do that, I want to just show you guys the fire engine here. It is a very simple build, but it is very effective, and I think it looks really good, actually. And it has 2 seats in it. It is a 6-stud wide model, and they did use the pre-molded seats here, which I think look perfectly fine. The steering wheel, and then the printed piece in the dashboard there. There's the light, a couple of fire extinguishers, a brick-built ladder with tiles and lightsaber hilts. I think that looks really, really good. And then these tubes on the side here just look really nice as well. And so this is a very basic model. As you can see, it's just built on some plate, and then you kind of build up from there. But overall, I think this looks really, really good. And it is, honestly, it stands up to the test of time pretty well, considering it was built in 2009. So 16 years later, I do think that this looks really, really good. Now, for the minifigures here, I have 3 of the 4 of them. The 4th one is not present because the sand blue torso for the 4th one, which is completely unprinted, is extremely expensive, and I did not want to pay that. It wasn't really worth it to me to just add 1 extra civilian to my city, so I went ahead and I just kept the 3 firefighters as it was, and I called it a day. And they have the classic smiley faces, and that is pretty much it for them. There's not really much to talk about. There's no back printing on each of these torsos here. I already had all of these in my collection. I just had to assemble them. So that worked out pretty good. But now let's go ahead, take a look at the model as a whole, and then we can talk about the modifications and we can add it to the city. So it is a little difficult to get the whole thing in frame here, but like I said earlier, I did modify the sidewalk, and I did also swap out the base plate as well. The set used 2 16x32 base plates, but I used a 32x32. That just felt more natural to me. For one, it is a 32x32 modular, and for 2, I had a 32x32 base plate. I did not have 2 extra 16x32s laying around, so there's no point to buying them for me personally, so that is why I chose to do that. Everything else on the first floor is pretty much the same here. Other than the Technic bricks, I did swap those out from tan to dark bluish gray, and that's just simply because I had 4 in dark bluish gray and I didn't have any in tan. Now, as for the other parts of the model that I modified, there are few and far between little areas here, but I will show them to you. I did go ahead and, as you can see on the side here, I still haven't added the other column in, but I just took a stack of 1x1 bricks and I added them to the corner here just to make it look a little bit more complete. And then I also added some tiles, these 1x2s in particular, to the top here, again, to round this out and make it look a little bit more intentional. And so I will probably be modifying this as well at some point because it's not centered. If you look at it straight on, not really happy about that, but I want to move it just ever so slightly that way, but I'm not really sure how to do it. So I'm going to have to look into that. But overall, that is pretty much it in terms of modifications that I made. There are a couple of more insignificant ones that I don't really remember off the top of my head. I did make a separate video about the fire brigade already, and so if you guys want, I'll put that in the top right for you to check that out. It is mainly about how I sourced the pieces and the cost of it as well, because the set itself retailed in 2009 and it retired a few years after that, and it was not very easy to find a set that was affordable nowadays because the set itself is going for $500 to $600 sealed in the box. And then on top of that, if you wanted to buy it used, you'd have to deal with Brito brown pieces or dark red pieces and other things like that. So not really interested in doing that. I saved a ton of money doing it this way. It did take a lot more time, but it was definitely worth it in the end. And that is the modifications and also the cost taken care of as well. Like I said, I will be modifying this tree here, and at the very least, I'm going to be removing it when we place it in the city. But with that, that is everything that I wanted to touch on with the model itself. So let's go ahead and add it to the city, and then we can start to work out the area around it, and we can start to make a plan. Just for fun, I did go ahead and place the fire brigade down at the end of this street like I had originally planned, just to see how it looks. And this does look really good. So once we flesh out the back here, if we don't fill this with skyscrapers and instead the shorter buildings make a little bit more sense in the back row, then I will absolutely go ahead and move the fire brigade over here. I think that looks incredible. But for the time being, we are going to keep it over by the boutique hotel at the front of the city. So now we're going to go ahead and add this to the city here. So as you can see, it is very large. It is on one standard base plate, but it is very large when you compare it to some of the other buildings around here. And so the boutique hotel has 3 full floors to it, and it is still shorter than the building that we just added. So I think this looks great. I think it looks really, really good. And this does raise a slight problem though. So as you can see, the boutique hotel on the right here comes all the way to the edge, and we have this retaining wall here. So minifigures can't walk this way unless they jump the fence, which is not really good because there's train tracks here. So there is actually no way to get to this dumpster here. Even if you go all the way to the other end, it has the basketball court on the other end. I think you can actually see that right down there. And then so there's no easy way to get to this dumpster here or to any of this back detail. And so what I think I might do for the logistics of the city is that the people who work at the fire brigade, or the firefighters, can just let people out here to access the dumpster and other things like that. I know the doors don't open all the way. That doesn't bother me because this backs up to train tracks. No matter where I put it in the city, unless it's in the middle, it's going to back up to train tracks, and that's just how it is. Honestly, I'm not really worried about it. And so I'm never really going to be opening these doors and using that feature anyways. So I'm perfectly fine with it. I might also switch the base plate to light bluish gray. So as you can see down here, the police station, I think, came on a dark bluish gray base plate, but I've since switched it to light gray. And then all of this other stuff here, the boutique hotel, and then these other plates are all just light bluish gray. And so I have an extra light bluish gray base plate, but I will probably be doing that. And so this is what it looks like from the front here. So as you can see, it is very nice looking over here, as you can see. And the road lines up perfectly with that, which I'm very happy with. I think that looks great. This does leave an 8-stud wide gap between the boutique hotel and the fire brigade. That is intentional. I did design it like that, so then that way the building could actually be centered with the street in front of it, right all the way down here. I think that will look great once we get this other building in. But that's actually what I wanted to talk about next, was this 8-stud wide building here. I need to design something that is going to cover the wall of the boutique hotel, because I don't think these ugly colors here look that great. I think it doesn't really look good at all. So I want to build a building that covers this and also is at the very least as tall as the boutique hotel here. So then that way this kind of flows a little bit. The reason this one is so short is because I wanted to see all of the buildings behind it. And so I also wanted to match the height of the donut shop on the side of the police station here. So that's why that one's a little bit shorter. And I think having this at this other height here, this taller height, I think that'll help flow a little bit nicer as well. So then that way there's a little bit of variation here in the city, and it's not everything is just the same height. So I think that makes it look a little bit more realistic. And so with that, we can start to plan out how we want to do the front here, because the front has a lot of different stuff going on with it because it is an extra 16 studs wide. So we need to fill all of that in. And I think the first thing that I want to do is actually start with the tiling here for the fire truck itself. So then we can go ahead, we can rip this sidewalk out because we're going to need to add in the curve slopes for that. And then we can go ahead, once we get that in, then we can start to work around that and add planters and foliage and minifigures and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get working on that. And we are going to save the 8 stud wide modular for its own video. I think I'm not going to do that in today's video just because I don't have the pieces to do that and I don't have a plan. So I'm going to save that for its own video. I'm going to take my time with that to make sure I meet all of the criteria that I need to. And then in the meantime, we can just work on this. I'm not really worried about the sidewalk out front because it's not going to be sticking out that far anyway. So we can just work all the way down here. So I think that's going to work out really, really nicely. I've been pretty busy, and I actually decided to just take the whole 48 by 48 plate out of the city. I figured that would be a little bit easier. And the first thing that I did was actually go ahead and swap up the base plate. I did actually decide to do that today as opposed to sitting on it and waiting. So that is light gray now, and I think it looks better. It looks more cohesive. I also got rid of all the green plate. As you can see, it's still over there. And I don't think this is too much light gray with the walls and the base plate being light bluish gray. I think it's fine. That doesn't really bother me. I think the black brick on the bottom is a nice contrast to it. And I did decide to keep the reddish brown plate on the end there. It's not really necessary, but I think it looks good anyways. And then coming back to the front here, most of what I've done is really just tiling. And so as you can see, taking the truck out of the way, I went ahead and I extended this all the way down, and then there's going to be curved slopes here. And then we are also going to extend the yellow as well. So then that is going to continue. And then this is just going to be regular sidewalk around here. And I'm trying to figure out what to do in this area here, because if I just tile all of this with dark bluish gray, that's going to be a lot, and I don't think it's going to look great. So I'm trying to do something that looks pretty good here, but I'm not quite sure how to do that yet. And so this is my first attempt at something. This is a 1x3 rounded plate with the holes in it, which is the same piece that the Natural History Museum used in its fence design. And so I want to use those fences because I have a bunch of these 1x3 rounded plates. I have a bunch of the spear pieces, and I also have a few of the 1x2 rounded plates as well. So I want to use those in this build here, or in this section of the city, and I am not quite sure how to do it. I'm not sure on the spacing for how much I want to allocate to this, and then also where on the base plate I want it to be. So that's why I have this random piece of sidewalk extension here. I'm just trying to visualize what it's going to, like how big the sidewalk is going to look once we actually get this in the city. So that is where I'm currently at with this. This is looking pretty good so far. I do actually really like the two of these next to each other. This is probably a better view of the front of the building here when it's actually integrated into the city. It's not fully in the city, obviously, but this is a pretty good look at what the ice cream shop looks like next to this. And I think that looks pretty good. It is quite short, but that was by design, like I've talked about. And that is everything I've been up to at this point. I am still trying to figure this out. So that is my next goal. I want to figure all of this out along with this. And then that is pretty much everything. And then we can go in and add the details. But once I finish one side, it'll be pretty easy to just mirror it and do the other. So let me get back to work on that, and I'll show you guys what I come up with. So it's been a while since that last clip, and I was struggling with the spacing of this for a while, and I finally ended up with this size right here and this placement. And then so once I have the sidewalk extension in, it is going to be 7 studs of sidewalk here, including the curb. And then we are going to have this amount of sidewalk back here. I think that's 8 studs, just about 6 to 8 studs, depending on the depth of the building. And I think this looks pretty good. I also have 5 studs of sidewalk here, which I don't think there needs to be a lot here, just enough for a figure or two to pass by. And then the same on the other side here. And then, as you can see, I went ahead and I made the fence design here. I really like this from the Natural History Museum. I think it's really cool. And so I want to replicate that over here and also over here. And then on the other base plates, this is going to continue for some amount of time. Not really sure how far that's going to go, but I guess we'll see. And then I also added some green plate in here as well. And then we can add trees in because the original tree that came with the set is just not it. So we're going to be upgrading this and placing at least 1 tree in here. Definitely more than 1 for the entire thing, but at least 1 on this little section here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and make the other side, and then we can start to worry about all of the details and foliage. All right, so some more time has passed since that last clip, and it's actually been quite a while, and I've been pretty busy on this one side here. And so I have also made a mess, as I'm sure you can see, but I spent a lot of time working on this tree right here, and I'm actually very happy with how this turned out. If you lean it up like this, you can see that it is a little barren in this one section right here, but I think it's fine. My goal was to make it look like the leaves were starting to fall, and I was going to add flowers down at the bottom, but I ultimately decided to just add the olive green leaves on the green plate, and then I just went ahead and added a couple of the green flowers just to help spruce it up a little bit. And then that is pretty much it, and it's just built with these snot bricks here and then plate on the outside, and then that is pretty much it. You can kind of see how it's made here. This took quite a while to get all of the angles right, and as you can see on the back, there is only 3, I guess, like right at the top here, there's only 3 sprues sticking out, and then the 4th one, I just put a cheese slope in there to kind of round it out. Not sure if you can see that all that great, but I spent quite a while on this, and I was originally going to do a smaller design, like the main street where the double wide road is in the median. I was going to do something like that with this pillar here, but it looked too small and it didn't look that great. And so ultimately, I decided to go with this, and I'm very happy with this. I think it looks really, really good. And I might move it this way a little bit towards the edge of the base plate once I actually get this in the city and I figure out how big this fence is going to be. But overall, I'm really happy with it as it is for right now. And I also added a couple of these smaller branches to make it look like it has been groomed and cut. So then that way the branches don't come too close to the sidewalk and things like that. And I could also add some jumpers in to add leaves on the sidewalk as well. And I'm probably actually going to do that because I think that would be pretty cool. So that is everything that I have gotten up to with this side, and so now I just have to go ahead and do it on the other side as well. I did also add a couple of quarter round tiles in here to make it look like stones. I thought that was a nice little pop of color. I might switch that to light gray just because the sidewalk's dark gray, but let me know what you guys think of that down in the comments below, and also let me know what you think of the tree as well. I am personally pretty happy with it. I think this looks really, really good, so let me know what you think down in the comments. But now it is time to go ahead and make a second one here. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you guys how they both look in front of the fire brigade. All right, so I went ahead and I made the second tree here. As you can see, I think this one looks really, really good. It is a little bit more fragile than the first one for some reason, but I do think that this looks great. And I did also add a little ladybug in there just for a little pop of color, and also because I had that gap there and I wasn't really sure what to do with it. The gap in the Technic piece, I mean. And then again, we have some of the wands sticking out and also the cow horns here. And I really like the base on this one. It's really simple with the curved slopes and things, but I think that looks good. And then here is the detail, which matches the other side here. And you'll also notice that I used the sprues from the wands. I used those on the ground as sticks, and I kind of tucked them under the olive green leaf pieces so that they wouldn't move around. And I thought that was a pretty neat trick to get some dead branches on the ground as well. And I did reddish brown as well as dark brown. And then this just sits on top. And that is pretty much everything here. I did also go ahead and put some jumpers in as I knock everything over. I did go ahead and put some jumpers in for the leaves. And I also added some of the modified plates like this, but in dark bluish gray. So I added those around to just give a little bit of a bigger pile of leaves. I did the same on the back there by the lamp post. So that's pretty good. I am very happy with this overall. And so with that, let's go ahead and add a couple of figures to this, and then we can go ahead and place this in the city and see how it looks. All right, so I've gone ahead and added the module back to the city, and I also added the sidewalk details in and also some figures. And I think this looks really, really good. I'm very happy with this. I might add a little bit more of the leaves over here, maybe, because this area here, along with this one here, feels kind of open. But I might save that for something else. I'm not really sure. So let me know what you guys think, if I should just leave this open, or if I should add leaves, or if I should do something else to it. But overall, I am very, very happy with this area here. This looks really, really good, and I am extremely happy with all of the little details in here. Like I showed you guys, the sprues for the wands on the ground, and also the falling leaf as well. I used some clear pieces for that right there. And that is where we're going to wrap up today's video. I'm super happy with how this turned out, and I'm excited to continue this down the other ways as well. And if you guys are excited for that too, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss any future uploads, like when we do just that. But thank you guys for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.